All right, hello. Happy Friday. Welcome back to the deep dive. Us. Fill the chats here for 1 second. This dive started. All right. Happy Friday. If you are new and don't know, first of all, thanks for checking out this live stream. My name is Tim. I go by Foamy Guy on GitHub and Discord. This is the Deep Dive, which is a weekly live stream here on the Adafruit channels, where we are working on CircuitPython. This stream was originally started by Scott, the lead developer of CircuitPython. He is currently working a reduced schedule, kind of on parental leave. So he's got a new kiddo to take care of, and so he's doing that, not working as much, and so I'm filling in here on the deep dive. If you are in fact unfamiliar, this is a live stream that's all about kind of getting into the nitty-gritty internals of CircuitPython. Obviously, Scott, as the lead developer, whenever he's around, he's working on cutting-edge stuff, whatever's upcoming in the CircuitPython core itself. I tend to work at a bit of a higher level most of the time. I'm usually working at the Python level rather than the core, the C code that's inside CircuitPython, although we do venture down into there from time to time as well when I am around. Today, though, we will be back at the Python level, which is a bit more typical, like I said. If you don't know what any of that stuff I just talked about was, you can learn more about the main project CircuitPython at the website here, circuitpython.org. This is basically a version of Python that runs on tiny computers called microcontrollers. When you choose to use CircuitPython with these devices, the way it typically works is you plug it into your computer. It shows up like a thumb drive. You can edit a Python code file on that thumb drive, and when you save it, the microcontroller will execute the Python code for you or run whatever code you type into there. And depending on which microcontroller you use, your code can do different things. Lots of these microcontrollers, such as all four of the ones here on the display, are very generalized devices. They're kind of just the computer by itself, and it doesn't have a whole lot else. It's got all these I/O pins where you can hook up whatever you want to do with it. On the complete sort of opposite end of the spectrum, we have something like the Fruit Jam, which is a new RP2350 based mini computer manufactured by Adafruit. And this one has a load of built-in hardware and peripherals to get you started. So it's not as much of a generalized device, although there are lots of exposed I/O pins as well, if that's your jam. But it's got loads of built-in hardware like an SD card, Wi-Fi chip, an HSTX, DVI output port there, an audio DAC with 3.5mm output, as well as a little JST speaker output. So all kinds of stuff going on with this Fruit Jam, and that just shows you the range of different microcontrollers that are available. There are 613 of them that support CircuitPython currently. And I try to always note that there are other ways to program your microcontrollers. So like we work with CircuitPython here on this stream and my other streams, but there are other ways that you can program these devices. This is just one way to do it. What is up, my friends over in the Discord, Johnny Bergdahl and Yano? I hope you're doing well this beautiful Friday. Yeah, I'm doing great. Thank you. I hope the same for you as well. What is up, Autograph over in the YouTube? I am humor intended, coming down with a case of the numps. That is, just started diving into NumPy myself. Nice, gotcha. Yeah, NumPy's got a lot of great mathematical processing there. Okay, so today, it was no accident that I brought up the Fruit Jam. I am working on the Fruit Jam today. I have it loaded up in the capture card here, so we can take video output from that HSTX DVI port there that is, shaped like an HDMI cable. I can feed that into a USB capture card, and then we can see it here inside a VLC on the screen. So the Fruit Jam is what I've got loaded up in Fruit Jam OS, which I wanted to plug briefly here at the beginning. The guide went live today for Fruit Jam OS, so if you are one of the folks who's got a Fruit Jam, or if you've got a Metro along with the add-ons and you really want to do some Fruit Jam stuff with it, the guide is now live for Fruit Jam OS, so I would encourage you to check it out if that is something you think is interesting. If anyone does get into Fruit Jam OS and have feedback, feel free to send it my way on Discord or wherever else you can reach me. GitHub is fine as well. If you're on GitHub, there's a FruitJam OS repo where issues are welcome there. Any kind of feedback is welcome on that. So, but I'm excited to get the guide done and get the whole thing sort of like released officially and out there, and all the documentation that shows people how to actually use it. There have been a couple of folks in the community that have been digging in already and making lots of great improvements. So, huge shout out, hug reports to Retired Wizard and Relic SE, and Sam Blenny as well has done lots of great work on FruitJam, the DAC, and all kinds of other stuff lately. So there are some folks that have dived in early, but the guide is out now, so you can actually get started nice and easy, follow along if that is how you want to do it. And lastly, I do always try to say thanks to Adafruit. This is their website, adafruit.com. Of course, we're on their channel right now, so most people are probably familiar with them. But they are the ones who make CircuitPython possible by paying the team of folks who work on CircuitPython, including Scott and myself, as well as some other folks. If you like CircuitPython and you want to help support the work that we do, one of the easiest ways to do it is by purchasing hardware from Adafruit at their website, adafruit.com. They have microcontrollers like the FruitJam, although I think it's out of stock right now, but there should be more coming soon. They have all sorts of other microcontrollers, as well as all sorts of little doodads that you can hook up to your microcontrollers to build great projects with. Huge thanks to them for making it possible, like I said, by paying the team that does it, and as well for allowing all the code to be published as open source, right? CircuitPython, the core project, all the libraries, all the projects, everything is open source, permissively licensed, and I think that's really cool of them, to pay us to work on it and then still release it as open source. So I commend them for doing it. Thanks to them for doing that. And thanks to everyone who makes it possible by purchasing hardware from them. Most important, CircuitPython is available in Swedish thanks to me, says Johnny Bergdahl. Yes. Yeah, we have a team of community members who have translated CircuitPython into a number of different languages, including Johnny. Johnny is the champion of the Swedish language. So if you have used CircuitPython in Swedish, you definitely do owe some thanks over to Johnny there. So I am starting today, not actually here, but here. I would like to dig into this display text thing. I don't know for sure if we're going to be able to solve it. Maybe it's going to be easy. Maybe it's going to be hard. I'm not entirely sure. But this is what I want to look into today. And it's basically kind of a nitty-gritty detail, so I figured it'd be good for deep dive. It's like specifically, for anyone who doesn't know, in Display.io, which is the main sort of modern way to draw graphics with CircuitPython, we have the display text library. The display text library actually has a number of different ways that you can display text, has a number of different classes that help you display text. The first two and the main two, the only two that we're interested in for this PR, are label and bitmap label. They are kind of meant to be drop-in replacements for one another. Label was the first one. Bitmap label came along later. There are a bit of trade-offs between them. For the most part, on modern devices with as much RAM as they have and everything, it doesn't necessarily matter too much which one you pick, but there is a slight difference in kind of internally how they render the text. If you are interested in the difference between the two, it's not how they do what they do is not what I'm focused on, although we are going to end up digging into the code. But this page right here, types of labels, this explains the difference between them. If you're interested in it, check that out. Display text, CircuitPython display text library in the Learn Guide system, and then types of labels explains the difference between them. But they're intended to be essentially the same. So, theoretically, if you put the same font and you put the same text into the two different labels and you put them in the same location, they should look the same, but it turns out they don't. In this case, when you have background type equals false, that's one of the configuration options. When you have that set to false, which I think might be the default, but I'm not sure, they don't end up the same. In fact, one of them is taller than the other one. I don't know if I actually said... The bitmap, it looks like bitmap label is taller Regular label is smaller, but they're intended to be the same size. So we are going to try to figure out why they're different and what we can do to fix it to make them the same. And I'm going to start by just dropping the reproducer there into my CodePy file. We can fix the import. I'm going to need this thing, which I am going to try to install with circup. For anyone who's never seen this process before, I encourage you go back and check out from the CircuitPython Day streams, the Bootloader podcast. They had a great lineup of little tips and tricks for CircuitPython. One of them was this CircuitPython fonts module that you can use with circup. You do need to install it separately, so we need to find the right command here. Hopefully this is going to bring us... This is what we want right here. But this is an optional thing that you can do with circup. If you just installed circup only, then you won't have this. But what you can do is run this circup bundle add, the fonts bundle, and then... oh, okay, I see what my problem was. I actually didn't give it a command. Okay, so I already had the fonts, but I didn't tell it to install, and then I tried to, and I spelled it wrong. There we go. This time it looks like it's going to go. Font, so yeah. So this is nice because it will install the libraries you need, but it will also install fonts. And again, like I was saying, check out the Bootloader podcast from CircuitPython Day last week. This was, spoiler alert, this was one of the tips and tricks that they went over. Okay. Save that, and then let's relaunch the code. I have auto reload turned off usually, so I can just Control-C, Control-D, and then this will reload for us. It doesn't have display. That's fine. We can just this differently. This is the sort of newer version of board.display. Is this supervisor.runtime.display. Not save. 12. Oh, there we go. Okay, I have another display here. All right, so let's move that up here, and then we'll say play. And there we go. Okay, so this is quite big, actually. I'm gonna, I think it's on. Okay, I shouldn't have done that, should I? Yeah, that wasn't very smart. In settings.toml, there's a way to set the display size. I have just done off screen, as you all saw. Yano says, doing well, thanks. Just finished up unexpectedly writing proto LSP server for CircuitPython with Claude Code. Nice. LSP server, that's the LSP server is like a text editor, like kind of completion type stuff, right? Like suggesting code snippets after you've started typing them. Is that? That's what those are for. I have not ventured too deep into the realm of all the different things that you can add on to your IDEs. I use PyCharm, and PyCharm has got its own suite of tools, which I'm sure includes these things. But I have not quite ventured down the realm of actually learning all about what's there. So I'm going to move these further away. I think right now they're... Well, okay. Okay, I guess, so right now the reproducer is demonstrating that, yeah, that they're different, essentially, because I put them at the same place right here. The anchored position is the same, but it's obviously they don't render one on top of the other. But I'm gonna move it actually. So one of them, I'm gonna leave the bitmap label at 3/4, and I'm gonna move that to 1/4. So label is gonna be higher on the screen, further up. Okay. And there we can kind of see visually the problem. So the color is filling in the bounding box. And for some reason with, which one did I say? So label is top. So for some reason with label, the bounding box is coming out way smaller. So one question we have to ask is which one should we change to fix it, right? Because obviously we could change either. Like we could try to make it so that label has the bigger box like bitmap label, or we could go vice versa. We could try to make bitmap label have the smaller box. I mean, honestly, this one is weird, right? Like this one has the stuff leaking outside. I could see a case to be made for like a smaller one than this. Like if we could cut off on this top line here, that might be kind of nice. But I don't know. I don't know why it's like that. But I definitely do not think we want this, right? This is like leaking outside the box. This one's weird. So this, I think, is what we want to go with. What, so these are with background type false. What, just out of curiosity, if we set these both to true, what does it look like? Both boxes look wrong. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, this is the one that I would call most correct, basically, right? Yes, exactly. LSP, so from before, LSP is the language server protocol for completion and stuff. Okay, nice. Yeah, so, I mean, this one looks fine. And just to be sure, right, if we put them back on the same spot, then they completely, perfectly layer. We don't see any pink whatsoever. Actually, I kind of maybe see a sliver of pink right there. But it's probably not, it's probably an illusion, right? That's probably actually white because of the, probably actually white, maybe. Okay. So that looks way better. Try with a normal font as well. It might be an issue with the font. Yes and no. Like, it could be an issue with the font, but realistically, both different classes should still behave the same. If you give them both the same font, they should behave the same. Even if the font is weird, they should still both behave the same because they're intended to be drop-in replacements for each other. So, yeah, I will grant the font is weird, and this particular font does accentuate the problem a lot more than other fonts might. Let's see. But nonetheless, I think even if the font is weird, the two different labels should behave the same way. And the font is definitely weird, obviously, because it's like huge and flowy. It's got big descenders and everything. Yeah, this looks like the same issue, but it's not as worse. Like I said, the other one really accentuates the problem a lot further. We could maybe see it better if we That's something like this. So that's too big of a scale. We must have put them off the screen when we did that. We could put scale on this. Actually, it is different here, isn't it? So it's behaving the same here. So, yeah, I mean, there is something weird about the font for sure. But I would still contend it should be the same. With the green box at the top of the screen, was it located the same way as you would the pink one? Yeah, they were both located the same way using anchor positioning. The only difference is one of them is, like, I've moved it to 3/4 of the way down the screen, one of them, and then the other one I have at 1/4 of the way down. We did have them stacked on top a second ago as well, though. Like the one background was wider. So to my eye, these two look... To my eye, these two look the same. On the gap at the top, and then no gap at the bottom because of the lowercase g descender. Yeah, to my eye, those two look the same. Won't be able to scale with this one. So it is, I mean, it is something with the font. But I think, let's try a different custom font. There should be fonts in bitmap font. And we're kind of in learning phase of figuring the problem. Figure out everything we can. Function regular 24. I think it might just be load. Load font, okay. Let's see. Yes, there's something. Definitely something to do with the font, as it's apparently specific. It says specifically imagines the ruled lines. It could be somehow reversing a sign for one and the other. The box looked like it has a border, caused the background to be wider, while one had the reverse, where the background was smaller by the same amount. Oop, I just tried to Control C on that. Has no load font. I did do this wrong. What is it? From bitmap font, import bitmap font, and then we call load font on that. Yeah, good thoughts, by the way. I appreciate the folks in the chat who are trying to help troubleshoot. I appreciate it. Yeah. Okay, wait, that didn't change. Okay, so we loaded the font, but I didn't actually use it. Ah, okay. We basically do have the same problem, but again, it's like the that other font, like I said a couple of times, it accentuates it way more. The descenders are, it's very, very slightly, to my eye, looks like it's poking out maybe only by 1 pixel or something. These ones are poking out by a bit more, maybe 2 or 3 pixels. And then again on the pink is contained correctly at the bottom, and then we do have this weird gap at the top. I don't know what that's about. The gap at the top, like I said, I don't know what it's about, but my aim is not necessarily to fix that right now. My aim is only right now specifically to get the two labels to behave the same. One thing that we should consider maybe is just setting background type to true by default, because again, let's go back to this. This is the one that looks most correct to me as far as like what I would expect the box to be based on the fonts. And these are already the same. But if we had defaulted to that, there's less chance this would have probably ever came up. Greetings from Argentina, the land of asado. Yeah, what's up, my friend? Welcome, and thanks for joining us. That's really cool. The gap at the top is for characters. Oh, that's a good thought. Yeah, I did not consider that. Yeah, characters that have, I guess, I don't know if those are technically called ascenders, but characters that have stuff above the sort of main glyph of the letter. Which we do actually have support now with LV Font.io. It can load fonts that include those things. I guess PCFs maybe they could as well. I haven't tried one in PCF land that does, but I know LV Font.io can for sure. Okay, so I think we have a decent baseline of like, I think I get the cases where it does what it does. I think I have basically a rough idea of what it does. So now let's get the code open and try to make it not do that. Figure out where the divergence is, really. Umlauts. I'm thinking about how those lines would stack on top of one another or not. For example, interfere with the descenders for the G, etc. I mean, it depends on how you place them, ultimately, right? So the label itself has no concept of stack on top of the other label, really. Each one is an independent thing, and you can place it either with XY or with anchor point anchor position on the screen, and it's up to you to put it where you want it. So if you want them perfectly stacked, then you'll need to use one of those two mechanisms, either XY or anchor point anchor position. I would choose the latter because I think they're more convenient. But you would need to you would need to use one of those and then make sure to place it the right way. Or one other option that you do have if you want them stacked is with display.io layout. There is a grid layout, and I think there is a linear layout. Plus even. Oh, right. Okay, we need to circle back to this one, and then this I don't think is like removing some file or some parts of the file that I believe we need for certain information. Is a linear layout? Yeah, grid layout and linear layout. These two actually would help you achieve the stacked thing. And then how they handle the different labels is one question, which I do not know the answer to, but it's kind of like up to linear layout to figure that out. So if this messes with that, then that should get updated to account for this, basically. But the labels themselves have no concept of being stacked exactly, so it's kind of up to the code using it to decide where they're going to sit. Now the bounding box, which is ultimately what is different. Well, let's check actually. Is the bounding box different? So I think I've been assuming this whole time that it is, because as far as I know, I think the color gets painted on the size of the bounding box. So let's actually just verify that though. So bitmap label bounding box is bitmap label. And then regular label bounding box is text area. Oh, these are actually different. Area label. Okay. The best names in the world, but And this is currently true, so hypothesis is these are the same right now. Okay, validated. Perfect. And then hypothesis here would be that they're different. Because I believe the colored rectangle represents the bounding box. Nice, okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, and so this shows us exactly what we see. Put them in order. Yeah, so bitmap label is at the top of the screen. It's the first one printed. It's y coordinate. That's what the bounding box is. X, Y, width, height. I think. I'm not positive, but I think that's what it is. This is higher, further up the screen. I don't know why it's like negative 43. That seems kind of random, but it's like 0. I don't know why it's like really. That part of the problem. I think that's just a quirk of the way it works, honestly, because the Y, if you don't use anchor point anchor position, if you use XY, it's anchored at half Y. So maybe just the Y is centered on 0, I think. So this is saying we go 43 pixels up, 43 pixels above 0, and then 35 pixels down, 35 pixels below 0. That's what that's doing. And then for the label, it is bigger because it doesn't go as far. That's backwards, though. Isn't that backwards? The label is at the bottom. Let me put them on the same. Let me put them at the same place again. Huh. Okay, maybe that is not XY width height. But it's weird that okay, no, I flipped them again. I flipped them again in my head. The label was at. I'm gonna switch him around this way, so hopefully this will help. Now they visually are in the same order as they are in the code. Bitmap label is on top, and it's bigger because its Y value goes further up. Y gets, further north, the more negative it gets, the lower it gets. And then this one is smaller because its Y does not go as far up. It does not go as far down the traditional number line. Diacritical marks. Yes, but don't the two types seem to use different logic for stacking? One where you need to be careful to leave space, and one where the space is built in. I don't know. They're not. So they're intended to be the same. They're intended to behave the same. So if everything was working as it should, then they should not have different logic for how they stack. The main thing that would change is this, but both of them support this. So if you were trying to stack two of them, you would want to make sure, most likely I think, you would want to make sure to use the same values, either both false or both true. I would go with both true because, again, it seems the most correct to me based on the way it looks. And then if you were to do different, if you were to do like one true and one false, then they now have different behaviors because you have deviated their configuration, basically. But if everything was working correctly, the two different ones should stack the exact same way because they should come out to the exact same size, which means they should come out to the exact same position with anchor point and anchor positioning, which means that like linear layout or any other code that's trying to stack them should be able to do it without regard for which ones you use, really. I think at least that's how it kind of goes in my head. We don't need text box, actually. Okay, so further confusing things is going to be that these actually extend, they both extend label base, but I mean, they're behaving differently, so I assume that there is some difference in the code that's outside of label base. Okay. This is bitmap label. Let's kind of go side by side here for a minute. We can't pinpoint sort of the same. Okay, so this does have a create background box, which we don't have here. Already we have a text box. It's kind of interesting that this one has this, other one doesn't. There is also, I think, a there's also a padding I think you can do. I don't know if it's called padding or margin. Oh, yeah. Okay, I know why this one has this. This has this because of the orientations. Yeah. So I would assume that these are going to be different than what is effectively the same concept over here, if we can find it. Here's background tight versus not tight logic going on. Box X and box Y, it looks like, are the sizes on this one. X, Y, so width height and width height. Orientations. Yeah, so label, the non-bitmap label one, this one has a couple of different orientations. It can do like downwards text instead of like left to right. It can go top down, top to bottom. There's maybe it can go up as well, maybe left to right. I don't remember what all of them are off the top of my head, honestly. But bitmap label does not support that. That part I do know. So I'm 1000% positive, although I would think we would see it in the code if it around here. Finished the album. Time for a up on the music. Okay. So indeed, no, yeah. Okay, indeed, those are different. So the height comes out at 20 pixels different. So that is the main thing we need to figure out. And then once we get the height to match, we'll figure out if the X and Y are messed up also. So and again, the label smaller by 20 pixels. The label is smaller by 20 pixels. So height here is a maximum of 0 or box height. And this is only just doing move stuff, so that shouldn't affect it. So where does box height come from? Box height comes from here. So if background height is true, which it is not for us, it's false. Well, the one that has the problem is false. So we want else. It looks like this is what it is intended. Okay. Loose bounding box. To include any ascenders or descenders. So the way this is worded is weird to me because it says draw a loose bounding box to include any ascenders or descenders, but what we see in the behavior is that the background type true. Well, we don't have maybe we don't have ascenders. Maybe we don't actually have ascenders. I was gonna say the background height true seems to cover the ascenders and the descenders, but we only have descenders, I think, in my sample text. We only have the G. Hey Tim, does display text label or bitmap label have a line height? Yeah, they both have line height. Line height, which will basically affect, like, if you have multiple lines, it affects the gap that's between them. I'm like 90, let me make sure that I didn't lie to you. I'm like 99% sure they both have that. I'm pretty sure that it's part of, that it is part of label base. And I think it's even called line height, like line underscore height. Oh, I was wrong. Line spacing. It's called line spacing. The amount of space between the lines, and that means between, like, new lines. Yeah, and this is on label base, which they both extend. So you should be able to set line spacing on both of them. And I think it's in, I don't know what the units are, actually. It's not pixels. I'm pretty sure the default is like 1.25. I think it's in lines. So if you do 0, then there will be no gap. And if you do 1, then there will be full line gap? That doesn't sound right. I don't know what the units are. I think the default might be 1.25, though, randomly. I don't know why that knowledge is in my head. It could be wrong as well. So I mean, okay, right. So for loose, this is what we care about. Background type false, and then we're not doing downwards, upwards. We're not doing top to bottom. I'm not going to worry about these. I'm going to worry about the base case of normal left to right font, which is this. And this is getting box width by doing these things, taking the bounding box 2, so that's 0, 1, 2. That should be XY width, which checks out. It's adding the padding left. It's adding the padding right. That's getting you the final width. It's getting an offset based on the padding left. Okay, seems reasonable. Box height. Ascent plus descent plus lines minus 1 times height times line spacing. Speaking of line spacing, plus padding top plus padding bottom. A lot of stuff going on there. Let's just print some of this stuff out. We already have a box. Well, I just called it width and height, though, I think. In the printout, at least. In Wikipedia, in typography and handwriting, an ascender is a portion of a minuscule letter in a Latin-derived alphabet that ascends above the main line. But I don't know if any of mine are those. Or do we have any? Would it be like an I or a J with a dot? No, see, the I basically tops out at the same place as the other one. So my assumption is an ascender would go above, like, this sort of imaginary top line here where all the none of the letters go above that. Of course, we do have the lowercase g, so maybe this, maybe between the top of this and this is actually the ascender? I don't know. All right, so this would be box. Well, so width I don't think we care. So width is coming out correctly, I guess, right? I don't really care so much about this. The height we care about, though. The height is made up by all these things. So we're going to say print label ascent lines -1. Isn't that wrong? Shouldn't it be... Why are we minusing 1? What is lines? Is that not the number of lines? Because we only have 1 line, but if we -1, then that's 0, which is wrong. Oh. Lines, and then there's a height. Oh, we have a height? I don't know if that's... I assume that's going to come from the bounding box? We have line spacing, of course. It's actually leading underscore. There's a public one too without the leading underscore. 99% sure. Line spacing, and then there's padding top and padding bottom. Oh, those are the ascenders. Okay. Okay. Yeah, according to the picture, at least, it makes it look like it, right? Because it has the G. It even has the lowercase g, which is perfect because that's what I've got as well. And it's showing the bit that's on the other letters, but above the top of that lowercase g is the ascenders. Anyone wants more degen type knowledge? There's no other than the type Bible. Design, maybe design type knowledge. Noun typographer. Elements of typographic style. What did all this stuff say? So we had a, yeah, so it was 1.25 as the default. So we had the ascent of 24, the descent of 8. We did have 1 lines. So let's try a theory here. If this just didn't happen, would we be the same? It's like right off the bat, that feels wrong to me. Nope, that is still messed up. Okay. That's very messed up. -1. Why would it be doing that? That feels so weird. Okay. Well, in any case, we have all the variables that go into that. So we have ascent 24, descent 8, lines 1, height was 43, line spacing was 125, no padding. And then with all of those together in this formula, we end up at a box height of 32. So what does the calculation look like on the bitmap label side? Box Y comes from here, and it goes box Y plus padding top and padding bottom. Presumably these are both 0 here as well. Just validate instead of assume, but... even though we only have 1 extra print. Sure, those are 0. Yep, they sure are. Look at that there. Okay. And then then we come from here. So it says if background tight, So then this is saying calculate the box size for a loose background. So we have box Y comes from loose box Y, Y offset comes from loose Y offset. So what are those? Print key label loose box Y offset. So well, I guess we haven't found the real formula yet. Very least the formula is broken out into more lines, right? Because we added padding down there, whereas the other one's doing it all in one big equation. One didn't print. Oh. Here we go. Oh, interesting. Okay. Okay, so we got a loose box Y of 52. We got a loose Y offset of 43. And then 0 on the padding still. So we do. So basically, loose box Y is pretty much height. It's pretty much, these are the same thing, and that comes out different. It's interesting, this is the same as this, though. I wonder if that's actually relevant or not. Just a coincidence. Okay, so the thing is, this is calling text bounding box, which is creating all these variables. I don't necessarily like so much the some of these are loose and some of these are tight and some of them are just nothing. I guess that's because what we saw before was background tight actually is only about the top and bottom. It's only about the y-axis. So I guess that makes a little bit of sense. So this one function here takes the text and the font and it returns the width, the tight height, the x offset, which I'm not really sure what the offsets are, truthfully. But we get an x offset, we get a tight y offset, we get a loose height. We got a tight height before, we get a loose height, and then we also get a loose y offset. And then in the one that doesn't work right, we are using the loose. This is not really calculating so much as it is setting the variables only. And all of the real fun is inside of here. So this says, get the bounding box from the font. If the length of that is 4, which it would be. Yeah, that's 4. I don't know what those mean though. I don't know what the bounding box on the font is. I mean, I'm pretty sure that represents one glyph. Know which one is what in order. Why they're why they're negative, really? All right, so load font returns a And the maximum glyph size, width, height, Y offset, and X offset. The one thing that strikes me as odd is okay, we do that, but only here, here, and here. The height gets set there. The height also gets set if we change the font. Okay. So one thing that's a bit odd is this is using multiple things, right? This is calling get bounding box. It's getting back 4 numbers, and it's using more than one of them. Like even just right here, it's used 2 of them. Actually all, like that's actually all it uses. So it uses 2 of them, but it does use 2 of them. Whereas here, we same thing, get font dot get bounding box. We get back 4 things, but we're only using 1 of them. We're using index 1. So this one is doing something. Now, ultimately, it gets to here, right? So the bounding box. So it says, I have no idea when, like, why this could happen, but, or I guess the else technically. I don't know why the else would happen, but so ascender max, descender max. Wait. What? Hold on. Let's back. Well, so this says width, height, X, Y. This says ascender max is set to height. Descender max is set to negative Y offset. Interesting. Okay. Mine's is 1. Everything starts on 0. Y offset tight, so we're not using tight. We don't care about that, I don't think. Character and text. Now we're gonna loop over the characters. Get the glyph. New lines. We don't have any new lines, so I'm not going to worry about this logic, but not sure exactly why that's there, if I'm honest. I mean, it has to move if it finds a new line. So, like, when you come across a new line, you need to go back to the left and you need to go down 1. That makes total sense. Oh, okay, I see. Wait. Oh. I don't know. I don't get why it's a number. So this is like plus equals 1, but then this is like reset it to 0. But we're only checking 1 character at a time. So by my reading, I think this is always going to be 0 or 1, essentially. We'll find a character. If that character's new line, this will plus to 1. I guess it depends on how many new lines are in a row, because this is else. Okay, so if we found like new line, we would loop 3 times. This would be +3. Okay. So it does actually, it does sometimes, it could possibly be something else besides 0 and 1. But we also still don't have new lines, so I don't care about it for now. X position, we're not really caring too much about that either, because the X, the width, and the X are both fine. It's right, X position, right, and again, like, all of that's basically fine. Y position equals Y start. Y start. So Y start started on 0. Y start started on 0 and then got set to the same as top and bottom. No. I don't know what this does, honestly. Is this gonna set all 4 of these to 0? Or like, what if one of these was something else? Like, if this was 10, does that set this to 10 and then the rest of these to 10? I don't really know what this does. I don't really care for code. I mean, I hope what it does is set them all to 0. In my reading, what it seems like it should do is take all 4 of these variables and set them to 0. And then to the extent that that's what it does, personally, I don't care too much for that style, although the alternative would be 4 lines instead of 1. It would make more sense and not really be ambiguous. So in my head, it's better. But depending on how that actually works, that's going to depend on what happens here. Because if these are all 0, then these are also all 0, because we set this to 0. We do 2 things that do not impact Y start or bottom or top. Neither of these 2 things do anything with either of those. And then we immediately would set these 2 to 0 also. Y position equals Y start. Okay. So we're basically at time for the night. I think the next thing that I will need to do is start printing out more of these variables. We'll want to print out a Y position. I'll need to figure out if my understanding of these is correct. I'm using JP's trick to get the bounding box and then creating the label based on the size. Looking at ascenders and descenders reminds me of the penmanship paper. Yeah, totally. I agree with that, where it had the different color lines. Yeah. X. Yeah. Yeah, that's one way to do it for sure. The anchor point and anchor position I find them convenient, but that way totally works as well. You'll essentially just move it to the center of the screen based on the width of the label. Okay, yeah, so I think I'll pick this up tomorrow over on my stream. If you want to see the exciting conclusion to this bug hunt, hopefully, you can check that out tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Central Time over on my own channel. I'll drop links in the Discord, the Adafruit Discord here, the live broadcast chat. I don't think I said that before, but live broadcast chat, that's the Discord that's below me here. On Saturday mornings, when I start streaming around 10 a.m. Central, I drop links in there. So you can join me tomorrow, and I'll keep troubleshooting this. And for my own sake, so I like to kind of just sort of debrief myself here at the end of the stream so that I can go back and look at it later. We need to figure out if this actually is setting these all to 0, which covers this as well, essentially, because the behavior of this is going to be basically determining the behavior of this. Then we need to start printing out Y position, top and bottom, and Y start. And for one thing, just trying to figure out what those 4 different variables actually represent. Top and bottom are fairly straightforward, I think, although they both get set to the same thing, seemingly, so it's a little weird. Yeah, we need to print those out so we can figure out what they're showing, and then all the rest of the calculations are based on those. So once we see the values for that, we're going to start be able to get the values that finally come out the end for top and bottom, which, yeah, final box loose, which needs, call this thing, and then also needs a sender and desender. So we need to figure out basically what are the values of these two, what does this return, how does it relate to those variables up there. Okay, that is it for tonight. Thank you for hanging out, everyone. Thanks for the folks in the chat who were helping troubleshoot. Thanks for everyone just for watching and hanging out. I appreciate all of you. Like I said, tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Central, I'll be back to continue this bug hunt. Until then, I will bid you farewell. Thank you, and see you later. Goodbye.